Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be doing a Q&A. So I did ask you guys to send me your questions to my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and I got quite a few, so I'm just going to choose a few of them that I feel I'm okay with answering somewhat. I didn't want to put all of them because then this video would be super long, so I just picked a few. So I have it on my phone, so if you see me looking down, that's why. So it's kind of just mixed up. I didn't like put it in any specific order, so if it seems like there's questions that should have been answered next to other questions, I apologize. But I'm gonna go ahead and start the first question, and it was, how old were you when you had your first child? So my first child, which was Zayden, who is 5 years old, I got pregnant at 16 and I gave birth to him at 17. So I was a teen mom. And the next question is, oh, this was part of that same question. How did you tell your family? So how I told my family I was pregnant with Zayden was actually, it was kind of weird. I was supposed to be going to a doctor that I had gotten an ultrasound and found out that I had some cysts on my ovaries, and so I was supposed to be going to another doctor to get like a second opinion before I went ahead and had the surgery to remove them. And they sent me to an ultrasound, and when I went to the doctor to like find out like what was going on and stuff, and it was kind of funny because at my ultrasound the woman that was doing it, the tech was like, so is this your first pregnancy? And I'm like, what? No, I'm not here because I'm pregnant. I have cysts on my ovaries. And she's like, oh, okay. And she like turned the screen, and I think I went with my grandma to that, so neither of us really thought anything about that. But anyways, at the doctor's office, he like came in, and my mom like asked something about the cyst, and he's like, so it's not, you don't have cyst, or not that you don't have cyst, he just said, so you're pregnant. And me and my mom was like, what? And he's like, yep, and you're 15 weeks pregnant. And I was like, I remember just like going in such a daze that like my ears like kind of like everything was kind of like, I can't even explain it. It felt like I wasn't there, and like they were talking, the doctor and my mom, and I felt like kind of like in a daze, and I could hear them talking, but I felt like my ears kind of like, you know when you go on an airplane or something, your ears kind of like pop and everything seems kind of muffled, or I can't even like think of the word to explain it, but that's how it felt. Like I could hear him talking, but I didn't know what I was like hearing. I was just like kind of in shock, and he let me hear the heartbeat, and that was kind of like, oh my god, there is a baby in my belly. And that's how my mom found out. And she was kind of upset about it. Like we went to eat afterwards, and she didn't talk to anybody and didn't eat or anything, and I was kind of happy because she didn't know that Zayden's father and I had talked about having a baby and wanted to have one, so we were kind of trying. And yes, we were young, but what can I say, I wanted a baby. So I was actually really happy once I came back from that shock of like, oh my god, I'm pregnant. I was happy, and I told his dad. I sent him a text message, and I can't remember what he said, but he was happy. And it took a long time before I told anybody. I think the reason why I told my stepdad I was pregnant is because I was scared that something happened. Sorry, my kids are in the background screaming. I was scared something happened to the baby because I couldn't feel it moving, and I was already really far along, and I wanted to order one of those baby Dopplers or heart Dopplers that you can hear the heartbeat at home. I wanted to order it, and my mom didn't want to use her credit card, so I was like, well, I'm gonna tell Marshall, which is my stepdad, and see if he'll order it for me. And she's like, well, you're gonna have to tell him that you're pregnant then. So I remember calling him and telling him to come over because I had something to tell him. And outside of my mom's apartment is when I told him, I was like, I need to order something that's really important, and it's because of this. And like I kind of told him I was pregnant, and he was kind of upset, and he's like, oh, I knew it. And he's like, oh, what are you thinking? Like he was kind of angry, and then afterwards he's like, it's gonna be okay, and he hugs me. And he never ordered me my Doppler, by the way. So that was kind of pointless, but that's how I told him. I can't remember how I told my grandma, but I do remember her telling me that she knew that she had already known it. She was just waiting for me to tell her. And yeah, she wasn't upset. She didn't really say much to me. And I didn't tell my dad or my dad's family. I actually didn't post it to Facebook for a very long time because nobody wanted to know, because I didn't show right away. It took me a long time to show. For a long time I didn't post it because nobody wanted, my family didn't want anybody to know yet. And so when we finally did. It took a while before I did say it on Facebook, but I guess it wasn't that long. Now that I'm really thinking about it, it wasn't that long because I remember posting pictures of me with a smaller belly. But my family, my dad's side didn't find out until first week, because I had him a week after his dad died. During like the whole funeral and stuff like that, my dad did come by and was kind of like angry at my mom for not telling him, and she's like, well, it's not my responsibility and you haven't been around, blah 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 type of thing. And he was mad, and that's how he found out, was when I was already due. So he was mad because nobody told him, and it's whatever now, but that's how I told everybody. I think that's about it. Everybody else found out through Facebook, and everybody that didn't find out through Facebook was kind of told through a text message or in person, I guess. Yeah. So did you breastfeed any of your kids? If so, for how long? So yes, I did breastfeed all 3 of my kids. And let's see, Zayden, I breastfed him till he was like 2.5. That's, I know, crazy. And I think while I was pregnant with Zoe, I was still breastfeeding him, but it was kind of more like a I feel like up until the age of 3, it's okay to breastfeed. I don't care what anybody else does. Like, it doesn't bother me if I see like a 6 or 7-year-old breastfeeding. But I feel like up to that age is when like they start being, like at 2, I guess, they're starting to be aware of everything. But at 3, it's kind of like I wasn't comfortable with it, and I feel like he got all the nutritional value that he needed from me at that point. But I know that up until like I think 6 or 7, around that age is when they really recommend you to still like nurse your child. Obviously they're eating and stuff, but yeah, so I did nurse Zayden until he was 2.5. I cut him off because I wanted to be able to breastfeed Zoe separately, which it would have been a really amazing experience to have done them both, but I don't think I was quite like ready for something like that. I just didn't want to do that. And Zoe, I think she was 6 months when I cut her off. I couldn't really like get comfortable with breastfeeding her. Like, my nipples were so sensitive, like it hurt. I did not enjoy it with her. We had a hard time latching because she was premature, so we had to use a nipple guard. And then when she finally got a latch, it was just not a good experience nursing Zoe, which I feel so bad about, because I feel like out of all my kids, she needed it the most because she was premature, and I just couldn't do it. It was awful. I couldn't handle the feeling, and I thought that's how it was going to be with the Rye, but it was completely different. And yeah, and with the Rye, I'm still breastfeeding him. He's 15 months, and he was doing really good, where I thought I was going to cut him off at night because he's starting to get like I took him to the dentist because his teeth were starting to show like they were getting messed up from nursing at night, and they told me, like, you know, brush his teeth after he nurses and get him into a routine of only nursing at a certain time and not at night, and wipe it after he nurses. And all that it was like really hard because, you know, he wakes up in the middle of the night and to nurse, and he wants to fall back asleep. So I've been trying to work on like cleaning his teeth and stuff, and I was gonna cut him off because it was so hard, like at first, the first few nights trying to do that. And I was gonna cut him off, but I ended up still breastfeeding him. And then he got sick and didn't want to eat anything. All he wanted to do was nurse. So I was like, just hold off. So I'm still working on trying to wean him off. I kind of want like a break because I've been breastfeeding for the last like, what is it? Like, he was saying 2.5, 3, 4, like 4.5 years. Oh my god, guys, that's crazy. 4.5 years I've been breastfeeding for, and like non-stop, just straight through it, something like that. Whatever, don't ask me about the math, but that's just crazy. So I just kind of need a break from it, and I don't know when I'll completely cut him off, but I'm trying to, like, he doesn't really nurse throughout the whole day unless it's to nap, and I've been trying to cut him off from that, just letting him not just fall asleep even if he cries without it. But at night it's so hard because I'm so tired and I just want to like roll over, give him the boob, and go back to sleep. So I'm working on it. If you guys have any suggestions on that, please help me, because Zoe was so easy to cut off. Like, she didn't even fuss, she just fell asleep. Zayden, he threw his tantrums, but he was already old enough to where he'd fall asleep. So I need your help, guys. And I think I have one more question. No, I have 2 more. How does co-parenting work in your house for any stepchildren? Okay, so I have a stepchild and my husband has a stepchild, obviously, and co-parenting is really, really hard in our house. Like, we don't have like court orders for Aiden, but for Zayden there is. And I guess I'll explain more about Zayden's before I get into Aiden's situation. So yes, Zayden doesn't have a dad, but we did go to court because his grandmother wanted to have visits with him, and there is such thing as grandparents' rights. So they are allowed to file to have visitations to the child and things like that. So that's what happened. And so he does go every other Friday for 6 hours with his grandmother and his cousins and all of that, and he sees them. And I don't know how it's gonna work during the school year, because while he was in pre-K, he didn't have school Fridays, so it worked out fine. And I don't know how it does work for elementary kids for kindergarten, if they have school Fridays or if it's half day. I'm not too sure, so I have to like figure that out, then talk to his grandmother about changing the schedule if need be. But if everything kind of works out, like I believe it's like half day Fridays, if it works out that way, then I'm gonna leave the schedule as it is. If he's full day, then we're gonna probably have to change the days or change the times, something like that. But yeah, so that's how it works with him. And his grandma and his family are pretty good. Like, we had problems, and of course every family does, they fight with their children's other family about things, and it was a big mess at one point. But now it's like things have settled down, and I try to work as much as possible with them on letting Zayden go. It's really hard for me too, because I'm scared for his well-being, because I don't want something to happen to him, especially like all these children that have been being taken, kidnapped and stuff. So it scares me, but I have to just like let go and trust that he's okay. But they don't really like bother my husband. They don't get involved with things. My husband doesn't get involved with things either, and I do like communicate with him and like ask him like his thoughts on things before, and he does help me. Like, if I can't pick up Zayden, he'll get Zayden for me, and everybody's fine with each other. There's no problems there. Like, I feel like the co-parenting thing that we have going on with Zayden and Zayden's family is pretty good. Like, I don't feel like there's any problems, and it's real easy, I feel like, to change things around if need be. I don't feel like there'd be a big problem. And I do feel like his family does communicate with me when they want different days or they want something. They do talk to me about that. So that situation is pretty good. With Aiden's, it's kind of more difficult because we don't have like a court order in place. So it's kind of, we're up in the air of when we get to have them. And it's a little bit difficult. Like, I feel like things could be like 100% better than what they are. I feel like communication isn't there. I feel like there's a lot of things that are kind of messy, but we do right now we're supposed to have him every other weekend from Saturday night until Monday, because it's summertime, so he doesn't have school. And during the school year, it was Saturday night and then return him Sunday evening, then pick him up from school Monday and return him Monday evening. And we do live an hour and 40 minutes away from where he lives, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to be driving that much. So I do think that he was going to see if he could get him Friday nights and return him Sundays. I'm not really sure what is going on with that situation, but I do know it's really difficult when you don't get along with the child's other parent. I have like reached out to try to be friends or have like at least some type of relationship with his mom, and things just haven't worked out. And I mean, I am open to things being good in the future, but as of right now, that's kind of like, we're kind of up in the air with everything. And yeah, we don't, co-parenting is kind of non-existent with that situation. I feel like it's best to not like talk about the other person to that child and how you feel, and we are we're really good at that. Like, anything we have to say about his mom, like if we have to discuss anything, it's never around any of the kids. Like, we don't want any of them to feel like that other person is bad in their life, because they're not. Just because like we don't get along with his mom or the family, or vice versa, like with me and Zayden's family, like we don't want them to feel like they should feel that way towards them, because there's no reason why the child should feel bad about the other parent. So that's one thing we do always make sure of, is that we don't talk about the other parents or the other family in front of the child. Like, we have our feelings, we talk, we say what we need to, but that's when we're alone, with no children around, usually when they're asleep, and we say what we need to say to each other about the situations, and then it's done. And yeah, so I guess co-parenting is, on one half, it's okay, and it's workable, and it's happening, and it's doable. I don't see no problems within. If there's problems, they are addressed. And on the other hand, co-parenting is just non-existent, and it's being worked on. And I guess I feel like as the wife, I don't really have much of a say-so when it comes to my stepson. My husband has more of a say-so because his dad isn't around, and Zayden does refer to him as his dad. So it's a little bit of a complicated situation. I know I'm just babbling on about this, but I'm trying to like come up with an answer to give you guys that's a little bit better than what I'm doing. But I feel like I try to step back from things, but I do voice my opinions and what I think is what I feel is best. But then whatever they decide is what they decide as parents. But I do feel like I should be involved to an extent as the wife and the step parent, because my children and myself are involved in this whole situation. So it's a little bit difficult. So guys, if you can work things out with each other, please do. Don't let things get to the point where things cannot be worked out. Ours, I still feel like it can be, but you never know. So just do your best to be understanding. I try my best to be understanding. I know it's hard. Like, I try to look at things from different point of views as a mom. Like, how would I feel if I was in her shoes? And then I try to look at my husband's, and I try to like think like, well, how would I feel if I was in his shoes? And the same with Zayden's grandmother. Like, I try to put myself in everyone's shoes, and I also have to try to think about myself and what is best and what works for me as a parent. But yeah, just when you're co-parenting, guys, just be very understanding and just do what's best for the child. Don't think about yourself and your feelings towards that other person. Just think about the child. But yeah, let's see, this is my last one, I think. Was each pregnancy different or the same? So that should have been with the pregnancy questions. So each pregnancy, yes, it was very different. I don't feel like anybody that says that their pregnancies are the same is telling the truth, because how can it be the same? It's a different child, different everything. So sorry, I feel like I'm losing my voice. So with Zayden, I feel like it was an easy pregnancy to be my first, but I did gain a lot of weight, and I was always miserable. Like, I hated doing anything because I was always hot, and I felt like a whale, and I didn't want to go out. Like, but other than that, I didn't have like health problems or any of that. My feet did swell very big, and people thought that I had preeclampsia, I believe that's what it's called, but I didn't. I was just taking in a lot of salt. So with him, I feel like he was the easiest pregnancy. With Zoe's, it was so hard. Like, I felt like I was always sick with her. I was always nauseous all the time. Other than that, I feel like the only real problem I had with Zoe is being nauseous all the time. But I think her pregnancy was easy, but then the aftermath of having her premature and all the things that happened with her is what was difficult. And I feel like my hardest pregnancy was a ride, because I had to go in for shots every week so that way I wouldn't go into labor. And I had so many health problems, and I had like, oh, I can't even think what it's called, but like with the where they were, I can't remember what it's called, and I wish I would have looked this up before I even did my video. But I had a lot of problems where I had to get ultrasounds to always check on like my uterus, because I had like a blood clot or something like that, and I forget what it's called, but they're afraid that I was gonna bleed or that was gonna rupture while I was pregnant. So that was like another scare. So I had a lot of complications, and there was a possibility of death with that. And if I do another video, I will explain more of that, or you guys can just ask questions down below if you're more curious about that, and I can actually look up what it's called and give you guys more details about it. But it was kind of scary to know that like I could be having this child and not come back from it, but I was fine. I did bleed when I had him, and they had to stop the bleeding. It wasn't like a lot, it was quite a bit, but not like extreme where I had a blood transfusion, but I did bleed a lot where they had to give me medicine to stop it, and I was going in and out, and they had to I forget what they put in my IVs to wake me up because I kept passing out. Like, it was awful, and his was probably the worst. So, and he's so healthy, and I had him all the way up until the day I scheduled for my C-section. But yeah, he was the worst pregnancy because I had so many health issues. But yeah, that was the last question. I will do in the future, yeah, that was the last one, another one of these videos and answer some of the questions you guys asked me already, and then you guys can ask me more. But I didn't want to make this too long. I just wanted to get to a few of them that I know you guys have been asking me quite a bit, and I just haven't had the time to answer or respond and give you guys an answer. I wanted to make a video on it so I can get more into depth about those situations. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned in this video, just comment down below. Send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, anything, and I'll respond to you as fast as I can. If you want to see more videos like this, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit that little bell button down below that will notify you when I do post a new video. And if you guys want like a set schedule of when I should post videos, comment down below about it. And I've really been thinking about it because I'm all over the place, and just random videos I'll post, but I don't like have a set schedule. If you guys want something like that, just let me know. And yeah, I'll see you for my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.